I'm sitting in my daughter's old bedroom. She moved out 11 years ago. I haven't changed anything. Same periodic table poster she never took down. Same shelf of books she never finished. Same teddy bear she was embarrassed to still have at 16. It's 6 in the evening. The light's that orange color that makes everything look more significant than it is. I have a birthday card in my hand. Her handwriting on the front. She sent it 3 years ago. I never opened it. I don't know why. That's not entirely true. I do know why. I just don't like the answer. I want to tell you a story about what my son-in-law did to me. And I'm going to try very hard not to make myself the hero of it. I've been a history teacher for a long time. I know how people rewrite the past to make themselves look better. I'm going to try not to do that. I'll probably fail. I put the card in my shirt pocket. I've been carrying it around for a while now. Some things stay in your pocket long after they should have been opened. Let me tell you who I am before I tell you what happened. Not the version I'd put on a resume, the accurate one, 67 years old. Retired history teacher, same school. Same classroom on the second floor with the window that never closed properly. I have stage 3 kidney cancer, diagnosed 8 months ago. I live alone in a house I've owned for 31 years. I describe it to people as my home, but that's not quite right. It's more like a place where I kept my things and waited to be somewhere else. My wife Eleanor passed 6 years ago. I didn't grieve the way I should have. I went back to work after 4 days. My department head told me to take more time. I told him I was fine. I was not fine. I just didn't know what else to do with myself. I have one daughter, Sarah. She's 38, works in human resources, and is better at managing other people's problems than her own, which, if I'm being honest, she learned from me. We have what I'd call a functional relationship. We talked on birthdays and when things broke. Not emotionally. I mean, when the furnace stopped working or her car needed a look. I missed her high school graduation. I was there. I sat in the back row because I'd driven straight from a conference and arrived 12 minutes late. She saw me come in. I saw her see me. Neither of us mentioned it then. Neither of us mentioned it ever. That's the kind of father I was. Present in the way that furniture is present. She married Derek Holt 3 years ago. My first impression of Derek, he remembered how I take my coffee. Black, no sugar. I'd mentioned it once 6 months earlier. He remembered. I found that impressive at the time. He fixed my gutters without being asked. Showed up one Saturday with a ladder and just did it. I trusted him the way you trust someone who never asks for anything, which is to say, without stopping to think about why they haven't asked yet. 3 weeks after my cancer diagnosis, Sarah called. She and Derek wanted to help with some estate planning. Just to be safe, Baba, while you're still sharp. I agreed. I should have heard what she was really saying. I didn't. I was tired and she was calling and it felt, finally, like someone was taking care of things. The signing meeting was a Tuesday afternoon in my kitchen. Sarah made tea. She never makes tea at my house. I noticed that and filed it away as nothing. Derek had a blue folder and a nice pen. The first 2 documents I read carefully. The third one he was explaining something about tax efficiency, while Sarah was laughing at something on her phone, and I signed it without finishing the page. 1 line. 3 seconds. That's all it took to hand over everything I'd saved in 38 years of standing in front of other people's children. I want to tell you I asked questions. I want to tell you I read it carefully. I didn't. I was tired and she was laughing and it felt, for the first time in a long time, like someone else was handling something. I let them. 4 months later, a Tuesday morning, I was checking my bank account online to pay a medical bill, the kind of errand cancer turns into a full-time job. The balance said $2,400.17. I read it 3 times. Then I called the bank. They put me on hold. The hold music was something cheerful, some acoustic guitar, completely wrong for the moment. When the representative came back, she explained power of attorney filed, full withdrawal executed, investment account beneficiary redirected. All of it, 6 weeks prior. All bearing my signature. I asked her to hold again. Sat there for 11 seconds. I counted, don't ask me why. Then I laughed, not a small laugh. A real one, 90 seconds at least. My neighbor probably heard me through the wall and thought I was watching something funny. I wasn't watching anything. I was sitting in my kitchen with 17 cents in my account, and I laughed until I couldn't. Then I walked to the bathroom and didn't come out for a while. When I came out, I called Sarah from my car, still parked in my own driveway. No plan, no strategy, just dialed. She answered on the second ring, which told me she'd been expecting the call. I told her what the bank said. She said, "Baba, you signed the documents." Calm. Each word placed carefully, like she'd practiced. I had no answer for that. She was right. I told her I'd call her back and hung up. Then I sat in that car for 40 minutes with the engine off, staring at my own front door. I didn't have a plan. I had a bank balance and a daughter who already knew her lines. I hired a lawyer the following week. Affordable office, glass and chrome, too cold. The kind of place designed to look expensive without being expensive. He reviewed the documents for 12 minutes, which I timed. Then he told me valid signature, valid power of attorney, undue influence claim would take 18 to 24 months and cost approximately. I put my coat on. He was still talking when I opened the door. "Thank you for your time," I said and left. Not dramatically. Just left. I had 14 months, give or take. I didn't have 24. My next attempt was the county records office, where I went to pull the property transfer documents myself. I filled out the wrong form. The clerk pointed this out in front of 3 other people waiting in line, in the particular tone government employees reserve for people who have wasted their afternoon. The correct form required 6 to 8 weeks for processing. I asked about expediting. She said no. I asked to speak to a supervisor. The supervisor also said no, in the same tone, possibly trained by the same person. I left with nothing except the specific humiliation of being corrected in public, which, after decades of being the one doing the correcting, landed harder than I expected. 2 weeks after that, I was in the oncology clinic waiting room after a chemo session, which is its own particular kind of exhaustion, not sleepy. More like the feeling of carrying something heavy for a long time and forgetting you're carrying it until you sit down. Orange plastic chairs, a vending machine with a handwritten OUTOFORDR sign, so yellowed it had clearly been there since before my diagnosis. I was reading. A woman sat down 2 chairs away, 50s. File folder on her lap, the kind of worn through that recognizes itself. She put $1 in the vending machine. It took the dollar and gave her nothing. We exchanged a look. "That machine's been broken since." I started. "February, I know," she said, and then her phone rang before either of us could say anything else. She answered, "Yes, the Holt account." Then she looked up and saw my face, said, "I'll call you back." Silence. "Derek Holt." Her expression shifted. "Who are you?" Her name was Denise. We didn't exchange revelations right there. 2 people in orange chairs is not the setting for that. We exchanged coffee shop, tomorrow noon. I want to be clear that I didn't trust her. I just had absolutely nothing else. The coffee shop was neutral. She picked a middle table. Neither of us had taken the window seats, which told me something about both of us. She slid a folder across without preamble. Same POA structure. Same trust redirect. Different name, 2019. Derek's first marriage, affidavit from her lawyer. Second page, his name, different amounts, same method, 7 years back. I turned pages. She didn't rush me. "Does Sarah know?" I asked. "That's the question, isn't it?" she said. I closed the folder, asked what she needed from me. That was the moment I stopped being purely a victim and became something else. I'm not entirely sure what. Someone with a folder, maybe. Someone with a next move. That night I spread everything across my study floor, old teacher habit, I grade on the floor, always have. Red pen. I pulled the original POA and circled one line. Beneficiary listed as Derek Holt only. Not Sarah. Not both of them. His name alone. If Sarah's name had been there, I would have told myself it was complicated. I would have found a way to let it go. But her name wasn't there. Which meant either she didn't know, or she was more involved than she'd shown me. Either way, I needed to know which. I wrote one word on the document and circled it. Pattern. I went to Sarah's apartment on a Thursday evening. Didn't call ahead. If I called, she'd have time to prepare. And I'd already seen what her prepared answers looked like. She opened the door, and we both did the same thing, looked at each other, like we were calculating how much had changed. It had been 4 months since we'd spoken in person. "I need to know if you knew," I said. She didn't ask what I meant. That told me something. She deflected first, HR instinct, redirect the conversation, then went quiet when I said Denise's name. Her face did something when she heard it. Not guilt exactly. Recognition. Like a word she'd been hoping wouldn't come up. I told her. Same fraud, 2019, Derek's first marriage, documented. She asked me to leave. Said she needed to think. I put my coat on, and at the door I said, "I'm not doing this to punish you." She didn't respond. I took the elevator down, pressed the lobby button twice without meaning to, and stood there for 3 floors doing absolutely nothing useful. I still don't know if that visit helped or made it worse. I genuinely don't know. Denise called 2 days later with a proposal to attend Sarah's birthday dinner. Derek had invited me, which said something about his confidence, and steered Derek into a specific conversation about the trust structure while her lawyer's recording software ran through my phone in my pocket. I asked if it was legal. She said her lawyer called it complicated. I said that wasn't a yes. She said no, it wasn't. I said, all right. I want to be honest about that moment. I knew what I was agreeing to. I made a choice with my eyes open. I'm telling you this so you don't mistake me for the clean one in this story. 3 days after that, I was reviewing documents Denise had sent when I noticed a filing date on her independent legal case 2 months ago. Before the waiting room, before our coffee, I called her. Was the waiting room an accident? She paused before answering. I saw your name on the oncology schedule. I'd been looking for corroboration for 8 months. You could have just called me. Would you have believed me if I had? I sat with that. She was right. I wouldn't have believed a stranger calling out of nowhere with a story like that. I would have hung up. I didn't like her much after that conversation. I respected her considerably more. There's a difference. That same week I went for scan results. The tumor was responding. The 14-month estimate was no longer accurate, Dr. Ellis said, in the careful tone doctors use when delivering news that's better than expected but not yet good. I asked him, because I was curious, if you had 14 months, how would you spend them? He thought about it genuinely. I honestly don't know, he said. I've never been asked that from the inside. I walked out with more questions than I'd arrived with. No wisdom dispensed. Just two men, neither of them sure. The night before the dinner I ironed my shirt. I haven't ironed my own shirt since Eleanor was alive. She used to do it Sunday evenings while the news played. And after she died, I just started wearing shirts that didn't need ironing. I stood in the kitchen pressing the collar and thought about how strange it was, the things you let slide and then suddenly need again. I charged my phone to 100%. Set up the recording application Denise's lawyer had sent. Did a test? My own voice came back at me. Test, test. Flat and strange the way recorded voices always are. I stood there listening to myself for a moment. Didn't find it funny. Put the birthday card from my shirt pocket onto the counter. Looked at it. Put it back. Derek and Sarah's house had new furniture since the last time I'd been there. Expensive looking. Clean lines. I noticed and said nothing. Derek met me at the door with his hand on my shoulder and my coffee order already made black. No sugar. Waiting on the counter. Performing, same as always. I performed back. Sarah stood near the kitchen doorway watching both of us with an expression I couldn't read, or maybe didn't want to. We were all three of us pretending very hard, and we were all three of us aware that the others were pretending. After dinner, Derek and I ended up at the sink doing dishes. I had steered toward this without being obvious about it, or at least I hope not. I brought the conversation around to estate planning, mentioned I'd been thinking about a second opinion on the trust structure. Derek responded the way he always did, warm, expansive, explaining the flexibility he'd built in, how it all protected the family. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Low battery warning. 11%. I had set it up wrong. 8 minutes, maybe less. I kept my face exactly where it was and guided the conversation to what I needed. The structure confirmed, the sole beneficiary, the protection rationale. Derek, comfortable, said, honestly, this is exactly what I set up for my first wife too. Same structure, works beautifully. 6% battery. Smart, I said. After dessert, I asked if I could share something brief. Took my phone out, pressed play. 4 minutes of Derek's voice filled the living room. That same warm, expansive tone explaining the same structure to a different family 7 years ago. The same phrases, almost word for word. The room went very quiet. I watched Sarah's face, not Derek's. That was the only thing I cared about in that moment. What her face did when she heard it. Derek went still in the particular way he went still between performances, that blankness I'd seen once before and not understood until now. I stopped the recording, stood up, got my coat from where I'd left it draped over the arm of the sofa. I'd put it there when I arrived, already knowing I'd want it quickly. I looked at Sarah and said, I know I wasn't always there. That doesn't change what this is. Then I walked out. I didn't look at Derek. Didn't wait to see what anyone did next. I sat in my car outside their house for a long time after. The living room light was on and I could see shapes moving behind the curtain. People standing, sitting, standing again. I don't know what was said in that room after I left. I never found out, and I stopped trying to imagine it after a while. Because nothing I imagined made me feel better, and some of what I imagined made me feel worse. I didn't start the engine for maybe 20 minutes. Same driveway position as 4 months earlier when I'd called Sarah with no plan, and she'd already had her lines ready. Same car, same street, different weight. I thought I'd feel something cleaner than this. I thought I'd feel right. Mostly I felt 60, 7 years old and very tired, and I wanted to call my daughter. And I couldn't, because she was in that house and I was in this car, and those were the choices we'd both made. 3 weeks later, Denise's lawyer filed with my affidavit attached. Derek's counsel settled before it reached trial. Pattern evidence across 2 marriages is hard to argue against. I recovered $210,000 of the $380,000. The remaining amount had moved through joint accounts in ways that were legal, if not honest, and there was no recovering it. My new lawyer explained this with the careful tone lawyers use when delivering partial victories. I thanked him and drove home. Justice, partial, I said to no one on the highway, which is to say accurate. The next week I went back to that same lawyer and signed the $210,000 into a trust. Sarah's name, no conditions attached, no explanatory note, no deadline. My lawyer asked if I wanted to notify her. I said she'd find out. He asked when. I said when the time was right. I don't know when that is. I may never tell her. Maybe I did it because I'm a decent person. Maybe I did it to feel like one. I've spent 38 years teaching history, and I know the difference between a generous act and a strategic one is mostly which version you tell people about. 4 months of silence from Sarah. I count them differently than regular months, not on a calendar, just as weight. I found myself doing everything for one. Coffee for one, groceries for one, news on in the evenings for one, and noticing each time. She knows how to reach me. The fact that she hasn't is an answer. Not necessarily a permanent one, but an answer. Then one evening my phone buzzed and her name was on the screen. 8 words. I don't know what to say. I'm still processing. No apology. No accusation. No question. I read it 4 times, then a 5th. I didn't respond. I'm still not sure what the right response is. I'm not sure there is one. I'm back in her old bedroom now. Same shelf, same poster, same orange light. Same card in my shirt pocket that I've been carrying for 3 years without opening. I take it out. Look at her handwriting on the front. She has good handwriting, always did, better than mine. I open it. The story doesn't need to tell you what it says. I read it. My face does something. I fold it carefully and put it in my wallet. Not my pocket this time. My wallet. I've been carrying it like something temporary. Maybe it isn't. If this story meant something to you, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe to Familiax Revenge. It helps me keep sharing stories like this one. Thank you for listening.